It's how much you want to win. And fighting's not for everybody. If you're there for the wrong reasons, you can't hide it. You're going to be sat there, you're going to be scared. You're gambling, basically. You're gambling with your life, because people do get badly injured in there. And people do die in combat sports. I can't do this, I can't do that, everything's bad. And they're living that because they're speaking it. As soon as you start speaking about yourself positively, things will change. I've always been pushing to win, you know, and I'm losing. I'm always thinking like, how can I win? So like the psychology of fighting it's interesting, and I always say to people now, like me coaching and having all these fights, it's like a big psychological experiment for me, because I think in the moments before you walk out to a fight, I think you really see what somebody's like, because everybody gets into fighting for different reasons. And you know, when you're competing, when you just, you know, and you get these people who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to fight, I'm going to sign up, I'm going to do this fight, but then just before they fight, you can see almost like why they're there, really, because not everyone's there for the right reasons. A lot of people fight for validation from other people, and I think it's the worst possible way you could do it. And that's something that I've never done. I've always fought because it's something that I want to do. You know, I'm there for me. Like, I don't really care what other people are saying or thinking. Like, I wanted to get better at martial arts, and I wanted to test myself. So going into fights, my mindset was about, you know, being the best version of me and trying to, you know, overcome obstacles and trying to win for myself. So I think that's a big part of, like, you need a healthy mentality like that. Whereas if you're doing it for validation for other people, I need to win this fight so these people think that I'm tough, or you're going to get found out eventually. And I do see it. I see people backstage and we're ready to fight and they start questioning themselves. I mean, some people don't speak. I can just see that they're questioning why they're there. But some people even, I've heard people say things to me and they've been like, oh, what if he does this? What if he hits me with his punch and knocks me out? And as soon as someone asks me them kind of questions, I think this is over.
What was you putting on?
I remember one of my earliest memories is wanting to do boxing as a kid, just seeing it on TV and wanting to do it. And I remember, I've asked my mum this since, and I've said, oh, I remember asking you I wanted to box and you were saying no, and she can't remember this, but it's something that sticks out in my mind, you know, something I wanted to do that I kind of weren't allowed to do. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he was made to box when he was younger. You know, he was forced to do it. Now you're going to go to boxing, and he had a couple of fights as well, amateur boxing. But he didn't want to do it. He was sort of forced to do it. He was made to do it, and he didn't like it. My mates went to this taekwondo gym, and you know, we just stood in lines doing punches and kicks and stuff. And from day one, I was like, "This is amazing! Like, I love this." And every day of them 30 days, I went to that gym and I trained, and I just loved it. And my mates, you know, they'd train a day. Oh, no, we're going to go play football now. But it just did not interest me whatsoever. I just loved martial arts. Everything happened by accident. Everything was just like, so I'm into martial arts. All I want to do is learn as many martial arts as possible. I'm just a thirst for knowledge, yeah? I just want to learn more. I want to learn this, want to learn that. And then, again, this friend of mine who died when we was younger, we got into the UFC. Well, I remember finding a UFC tape and looking at it and thinking, is this real? Because it's saying no rules, you know, no time limit. And I'm like, is this real, or is this like WWE staged? So we put it in, we watch it. Straight away, you know, first fight, the big sumo guy gets his teeth kicked out. And we're like, this is real. And I had this feeling, it was almost like I'm watching something illegal. I had this like feeling in me like, wow, this is not normal. This is something that, you know, not everybody's even seen. Never mind, they've done it. And at that point, I thought, this is something I want to do. Like, imagine I could get good enough and I could go and fight in one of these tournaments. And it was not about money, it weren't about making it a career, it was just something I wanted to do. Like, you know, I'm in this little market town, there's no MMA gym here, MMA gyms don't really exist. So I start training my friends, and I'm training them basically to be my sparring partners. So I'm taking them on pads, I'm showing them takedowns. You know, I get some little mats and I'm like, let's train, you know, try and take me down, we'll grapple. And that's basically what it was. It's me and a group of friends training, but I'm coaching them. And they're my sparring partners. And that progressed until it's like, we've got an actual gym. We've got a real gym. Now I can charge people to come and train. And it's not making loads of money. In fact, I think, you know, it's just breaking even, if that. You know, it's paying the bills, but I've got something. I've got a team of people. And then, you know, I'm 18 years old and I've got guys fighting and I'm cornering them already. Like, that's the stage we're at. So I'm in the corner, 18 years old, telling people what to do. I don't even know what I'm doing myself. You know, I'm just blagging it. And then people are seeing, you know, we're getting a couple of wins. People are seeing, oh, them guys are good, let's go train with them. And then more people are coming. And then next thing, people are traveling to come and see me because I've got a group of fighters. I'm coaching, I'm learning about coaching and, you know, on the job basically. So yeah, it just started building and building, and then, you know, we moved to a different gym, a bigger gym, a better gym, and it's just constantly been moving gyms. I've just moved gyms recently to a better facility. It's just constantly been improving. Now we've got, I think, 460 members in my gym right now. That's just training MMA, jiu-jitsu.
Just do a couple first a few times. That's it, yeah. Southpaw, that body's just there, isn't it?
So my old man couldn't read all right. So my dad was 40 when I was born. So when I got to my 20s, my dad was 60-year-old. And I remember when I was younger, he used to get me for Christmas cards and birthday cards for my mum. He would, oh, just write that card for me. And I remember filling in Christmas cards, not realising that my dad couldn't write. And then one day, so my dad used to work for himself. He was very good at making stuff. He could make, he used to make antique furniture. So he'd make new furniture, but he'd make it look antique and he'd sell it to all these antique dealers and stuff like that. He was really good at that. And he was self-taught like carpentry, joinery, you know, builder. He could do all this stuff self-taught, but he couldn't read and write. And I remember he'd built like a wardrobe or something, and he sold it to this guy. And this guy said, oh yeah, deliver it to my house. He gave me dad a pen and paper. Oh, he said to me, Dad, have you got a pen and paper yet? And he's like, oh, this is my address. And he told me dad the address. And my dad writ just scribbles down because he couldn't actually write the address down. So then he said to the guy, yeah, just where's it near? And he's like, oh, it's near this pub and that pub. So he gave him a general idea where it was. And the guy went away. And I could see my dad were a little bit flustered. He were a bit not upset, but just a bit taken aback or whatever. And then I realised that he couldn't actually write. And he just writ these scribbles. So he knew, I think he knew the house number, but not the actual address. I was a young kid at this point. Like, he could have told me to remember it or told me to write it down, but he was put on the spot and asked to write by this guy. And I think because he was put on the spot, he was a bit flustered. And he's like, right, we've got to find this house. So we drive and he finds where this pub is, and he drives and he sees someone down the street and asks the guy, do you know where this guy lives? And eventually he found the house and everything. And that's how he did it. He just blagged his way there. But I thought, wow, you know, how do you get through life without being able to read and write? It's, you know, I remember him looking at newspapers as well when I was younger. And another time, and I remember him just looking at the pictures and like saying, oh yeah, look, so-and-so's done this. But the picture didn't match what the story was actually saying. Do you know, so he'd almost guessed at the story through the pictures. You know, do you know what I mean? And I realised like he can't actually read this newspaper. He's just looking at glancing at the pictures and coming up with his own interpretation. So yeah, he couldn't read all right. And I remember on his deathbed, he actually wrote my mum a letter. And I remember seeing the letter, and it really made me upset because it was like something that my 9-year-old boy had written. Yeah, it was like he couldn't spell it. He spelt a name wrong, and you know he'd drawn out. You know, some letters were capital and some were small letters, and you know it must have took it like to try and write like that, not being able to read and write. You know, it must have took him some effort to write it. It was only a small little letter, couple of sentences, but it must have been a lot of effort. And yeah, it was just everything spelled wrong, and you know, words back to front and letters in the wrong place and stuff. But you can understand it, you can read it and understand it. But yeah, it was sad after he died. I read that and I thought, wow, like what a life to, you know, not be able to read and write. So the goal was from being young to get to the UFC. So I'm fighting, I get to 8-0, everyone's touting me, you know, I'm a young lad. I think I'm 8-0 and I'm maybe only 22 years old at this point. So everyone's like, wow, this kid, you know, he's a superstar. And then I fought another guy who was on the same, you know, another young lad, he's 8-0 as well. I lost that fight. And all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, he's done now, that's it, you know, the dream's over. And yeah, I just started fighting then. The pressure was kind of off me then. You know, I got to 8-0, I'd lost. The pressure's gone now. It's not about, am I going to lose anymore? Because I've already lost, so I don't need to worry about that. I can just take fights and enjoy myself. So I just got into an habit of just taking like the maddest fights. I lost to Gunner, so I'd lost 2 in a row then. Again, people are, he's done now, he's lost 2 in a row. But it never really affected me. I just wanted to fight good people. Went over to Sweden, fought in Sweden, went over to fight in America. So I'd done that all before the UFC. You know, I'd fought in all these different places, and I'd kind of, at that point, thought, right, the UFC is not the goal anymore. Like, that was the dream. But now I can fight in all these countries, I can fight all these cool people and make some money while I'm doing it. And not loads of money, but I'm living, you know, I'm surviving. And I thought, this is it, this is the dream, I'm living the dream now. Traveling, fighting, making money, surviving, that's the dream. So the UFC kind of dream is gone now. It's like, I'm happy just doing this. And I would have stayed doing that until obviously I fought in Sweden. I got noticed by a manager who was, you know, highly involved in the UFC, managed Robbie Lawler, Matt Hughes, he managed all those guys. And yeah, he got my foot in the door. And I was actually asleep upstairs in the back of this gym when I got the call, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I got signed to the UFC. So it kind of came as a surprise. I'd sort of stopped hunting for it. You know, sometimes they say things when you stop chasing something, that's when you get it, and that's kind of what happened. So that was the end of 2013, when it was Christmas time, it was snowing outside, it was freezing in here. So that's when I got signed, and then my first fight was in March 2014. But around that time was a bad time because that's when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. He had cancer in his throat. And I think they gave him 2 years to live. They said they tested the cancer. They said, listen, it's, you know, it's like a really aggressive form of cancer. We can't really do anything. They gave him 2 years to live then. And he just deteriorated, like, badly. He couldn't eat, so he had to just have like these meal replacement, like milkshakes, you know, so he's having them, you know, and it weren't good at 13 when it was Christmas time, it was snowing outside, it was freezing in here. So that's when I got signed, and then my first fight was in March 2014. But around that time was a bad time because that's when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. He had cancer in his throat. And I think they gave him 2 years to live. They said they tested the cancer. They said, listen, it's, you know, it's like a really aggressive form of cancer. We can't really do anything. They gave him 2 years to live then. And he just deteriorated, like, badly. He couldn't eat, so he had to just have like these meal replacement, like milkshakes, you know, so he's having them, you know, and it weren't good. Obviously, before he died, he got to come to the UFC. He was in a bit of a bad way. He was in a wheelchair or whatever, and but yeah, he got to see that first UFC fight in the O2, and everyone was chanting my name and that. So I think that was really cool that he got to witness that. I'm proud that I got to the UFC basically off my own back, doing what I wanted to do. I did it all my own way. I got there. My friends cornered me, Cam and Craig. They jumped in my corner and helped me out. And my dad got to see me fight there. So yeah, I'm proud of what I did. Could I have done things differently? Probably. I could have done things different, but yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy how it worked out, and yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for doing something off your own back and doing it all your own way. So regardless of the results on that, you know, I'm happy with it. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I have realised, and the sort of big piece of advice that I could give to anyone that could help anyone in anything is not to give a fuck really about other people. You know, be respectful of other people, but don't care what other people think. Like, if you want to do something, if you want to go and climb Mount Everest, you go and do it. Like, there's no point in living for what you think other people want from you. You just got to do your own thing. And I think that's like the biggest lesson that, if you look at my life, that you could probably take from that is you just got to do things for yourself, and people will help along the way, and you'll fall out with people on the way, but if you do everything for yourself, then the reward is bigger because you did it, and you'll learn a lot on the way as well. Even if you fail, you'll learn a lot on the way. That's the crack on. Yeah.